Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the small indie film called Goodbye Christopher Robin. This is a film biopic about author A. Milne, who is most well known for creating the Winnie the Pooh character, as well as the other characters that have been introduced in those Winnie the Pooh stories and books and film and television and radio. And Winnie the Pooh has appeared in so many different forms over the years, but A. Milne is the man responsible for creating this character, and it's all due to the young imagination of his son Christopher Robin, who also is a character in those Winnie the Pooh stories, who kind of made up these characters. They started off as little toys, and him and his father played with these little toys in their backyard and in the forest and these places that they had next to their home in England, and they've made these little adventures together. So as a result, A. Milne, who was also a World War I veteran, he was trying to kind of get over these traumatizations that happened to him of all these awful things that happened in the war. He noticed that people didn't seem as happy as they were before the war began. So what he was trying to do with these Winnie the Pooh stories is inject happiness into people's lives again. Rather, the books are marketed for children, which basically was the target audience after a while for those stories. Or it brought happiness to the adults' lives because they're the ones reading these stories to the children, and hopefully, if A. Milne succeeded, he brought happiness into their life too through the happy adventures of these characters in the stories. But another big thing that Goodbye Christopher Robin takes on is the idea that because Christopher Robin not only is a major character in these Winnie the Pooh stories, in real life they wanted him to appear on television shows and have tea parties with famous English celebrities at that time, and be able to go out and meet kids and be able to sign the books for A. Milne. It got to the point where A. Milne wasn't even the person people wanted to talk to. They wanted to talk to Christopher Robin. And it was one of those things where Christopher Robin was so happy with, going out in the forest with his dad, kind of being a part of the writing process with his dad while he was creating stories, to be able to have that freedom and to have these little adventures and to be able to have Piglet and Tigger and Winnie the Pooh and all these famous Winnie the Pooh characters all to himself, and not really have to worry about what exactly his dad could write next for these characters, and be able to create more books and be able to provide for the family and so forth. um, so the film very much takes on the idea of, is being famous at too young of an age kind of a bad thing because you're kind of robbing that person of their childhood if you do. So Goodbye Christopher Robin takes on all these things. It's all about the creation of Winnie the Pooh, how A. Milne kind of got over the World War One traumatizations that he ran into and faced, and how Christopher Robin, his son, kind of didn't approve about the whole Winnie the Pooh thing. He kind of wanted to be able to have these characters to himself and not worry about other people celebrating and dressing up as these characters and so forth. He wanted these characters to himself. Like Tigger is a name that he came up himself. He didn't come. A. Milne did not come up with that name. That was something his son came up with. Um, so this film takes on all these things that a lot of people probably didn't realize about Winnie the Pooh. That, sure, A. Milne was very much a big factor into the creation process behind this character, but it was ultimately his son and the adventures that they had together in the forest and their backyard with these little toys that ultimately created the Winnie the Pooh series, ultimately. And so I think that's what this film really is about, of really getting people familiar with where exactly Winnie the Pooh came from and how Christopher Robin and the real life Christopher Robin are very much different and very much on different pages as far as where Winnie the Pooh stands. And the real life Christopher Robin really kind of wanted nothing to do with this whole Winnie the Pooh series at all. So overall, guys, I liked this film biopic. I thought it was a good film, not a great film. There's a lot of things I'm going to go over here in my positives and negatives that I think definitely wear the film down a little bit. I think it is a good film, though. It very much was very informed, and it was kind of entertaining to find out exactly where this Winnie the Pooh character came from, why he's even called Winnie the Pooh, and so forth. Why they didn't just call him like Winnie the Bear or something simplistic like that. The film does go over all those things. Um, so I guess just jumping into my positives and negatives right away. One thing I really liked about this film was the historical intrigue that it had. That it really felt very interesting to learn how certain things came to be. How A. Milne kind of went away from plays and focused it on the Winnie the Pooh stuff for a while. Kind of how Winnie the Pooh he kind of put to the side after a while after he realized that his son really didn't approve of this after a while. And as he got older, he really realized that Winnie the Pooh kind of needed to go away for a while, that his son should be his own person, that his son wanted to join the military and be able to be respected as the person he ended up being in the military and so forth. So there's a lot of historical things about this movie that I was just really intrigued by. So I think for those who really are kind of curious as to how Winnie the Pooh came to be, I think you're definitely going to get that movie here. I also like the film's themes on growing up and kind of the dangers behind being too famous too early and not being able to kind of live the childhood you once had before the fame started. I definitely saw a lot of connections to kind of how Michael Jackson grew up, how, his family was on tour so often and he was performing music so often that by the time he was an adult, he really wanted these things still that a child would want, like having sleepovers and so forth. Um, Same with Macaulay Culkin. That was another person I thought of after this movie. Was that kid was kind of in all these films all of a sudden that by the time he was grown up, there was a lot of things from his childhood that he still wanted as an adult. So he wasn't able to transition into that period as his life as well because all those films took up so much of his life as a kid. So I think that's one thing that this film definitely covers too. That Christopher Robin himself, the real life one, kind of wanted to get away from it for a while and really wanted to be respected as his own person and not be able to be remembered as this character in this story that he really kind of wanted nothing to do with. So I like all these themes that the film does take on. I thought they were very interesting. I also thought the entire acting ensemble was great. Domhnall Gleeson plays A.A. Milne. Margot Robbie plays Mrs. Milne. Um, Kelly Macdonald from No Country for Old Men plays the nanny of Christopher Robin. I don't know the young boy's name who played Christopher Robin in this, but I am going to have it in the description down below for this movie, for this review. So for those who want to know his name, I am going to have it listed in there for celebrities who are featured in this movie. But yeah, everybody was very good. Really not an acting performance that really felt bad. It really felt like everybody was kind of on par and on the same page with what exactly this film was. So as far as acting was concerned, really had no problems in that regard. But for my negatives of Goodbye Christopher Robin and why it probably isn't my favorite film biopic or why I feel like other film biopics are kind of better as far as construction is concerned. So I am going to go over some things that kind of bothered me a little bit about this movie. The first one was I thought it was really uneven in the editing process when we go from different time transitions. So when the film transitions to young Christopher Robin as a teenager and teenage Christopher Robin going into military Christopher Robin as an adult. Everything felt really uneven whenever the film tries to make that transition. You almost kind of are like, wait, where are we? What time are we in? It really has, because at the beginning of the film, they use subtitles to show you kind of what year it is, where they're at, where they move to, and whenever this family moves and so forth. But they kind of abandoned the subtitles after a while, and I really wish they didn't because when they do go to different time periods throughout this movie, it's very, very quick and very uneven and kind of confusing in a way because you look at this teenage person and you're not sure if that's Christopher Robin or another character at one point. So I felt it was very uneven and very like unprofessional in a way. It didn't feel like a professional film production in that regard because we instantly are in that position, we're instantly in that time period, but there's no like follow up or transition into that. Another negative I had with this movie is I feel like it took a little too long to get going. For the longest time, I would say the first 25 minutes of this movie, you kind of forget that it's a movie about the creator of Winnie the Pooh. There's almost no Winnie the Pooh stuff at all until I would say about 45 minutes in, and I think it's like an hour and 50-minute movie, I would say. So it takes a long time to get going, unfortunately. There's just a lot of time and a lot of things that they try to focus on that really don't need to be there. Some of the supporting characters are treated like lead characters at certain points of the movie. So I think certain things like that kind of interfere with this movie. So it did take a little too long to get going with where Goodbye Christopher Robin was really about. And my last negative of this movie that I kind of briefly covered earlier was I felt like the film really lost focus with its plot sometimes. It just kind of focuses on random things or supporting characters or things that really don't contribute at all to the creation of Winnie the Pooh. So overall, I thought certain scenes kind of lost focus for where this film was really trying to go. So that's another thing I thought that weighed the film down a little bit. But overall, I'm going to give Goodbye Christopher Robin an 8 out of 10. I think it's a good film. I think it's an intriguing film as far as learning about A.A. Milne and the creation of Winnie the Pooh and how being too famous too young can sometimes be a really bad thing. Being able to have certain things to yourself and they remain to yourself, it can sometimes be a really important thing as well. But the uneven time transitions, the fact that it took a really long time to get going with where the plot was really supposed to be by a certain time in the movie. And I really just thought the film lost focus at times. It really just kind of lost focus where they really were kind of not sure with what film they were trying to make at certain points in the movie. So 8 out of 10 for me. I like this movie. If you're intrigued by kind of what Goodbye Christopher Robin is about, I would say give it a view. Whether it's in the theater or at Redbox, I'm going to leave that up to you. Not the best biopic I've ever seen, but I think it's good enough to recommend it. So Goodbye Christopher Robin. I think it's a good film, just not quite a great film.